Long ago, during Hollywood's golden age, movie studios ruled like strict kings. They made harsh rules for their actors, and one rule was clear: do not get pregnant. Studios believed fans only wanted glamorous single stars, so when an actress learned she was expecting a baby, she had to hide it like a precious secret. If the bosses found out, she could be fired instantly. These brave women used clever, uncomfortable tricks to keep their growing bellies hidden. They wore tight corsets, oversized coats, and strangely placed props. Let's turn back the pages of Hollywood history and discover the hidden stories of 10 famous stars. Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman was a beautiful Swedish actress famous for the classic movie Casablanca. In the early 1950s, she fell in love with an Italian director and became pregnant. At that time, Hollywood studios demanded that actresses stay single and childless to keep fans happy. Instead of using tricks to hide her baby bump, Ingrid made a brave choice. She traveled to Italy, had her child openly, and told the truth to the press. Hollywood studio bosses were furious. They broke her contract and banned her from American films for nearly 7 years. Newspapers wrote harsh stories, and some theaters refused to show her old movies. Ingrid lost millions of dollars and many Hollywood friends, yet she never gave up her acting dream. She slowly returned to work and eventually won another Academy Award for her incredible talent. Her story taught later generations of actresses that being honest about motherhood could be hard, but it was also right. Ingrid proved that real courage sometimes means standing up to powerful bosses, even when they try to silence you. She kept her family, her dignity, and her place in movie history. Lana Turner. Lana Turner was famous for her shining blonde hair and figure-hugging sweaters, earning her the nickname the Sweater Girl. When she learned she was pregnant in the 1940s, she knew she had to keep it secret. Her studio, MGM, treated actresses like products, not people. If they discovered her pregnancy, she could lose her job immediately. Lana used clever camera tricks to hide her growing belly. She wore huge, puffy winter coats even during hot California summer days. On set, directors carefully positioned her behind large wooden desks, tall counters, or grand pianos so only her face showed. When she had to stand, she carried oversized handbags or held giant bouquets of flowers directly in front of her waist. She also turned her body sideways to hide her shape from the camera lenses. These tricks worked, but hiding a pregnancy was exhausting. Lana wore tight undergarments that ached her back, and she felt lonely because she could not share her happy news. After her baby was born, she left the newborn with a caregiver and returned to filming within days. Her secret stayed safe for decades, proving how careful she had to be to protect both her career and her child. Bette Davis. Bette Davis was one of the strongest and smartest actresses of her time. She won 2 Academy Awards and refused to let Hollywood bosses control her life. When she became pregnant in the 1940s, she decided she would not stop working. Instead, she invented clever ways to keep her baby bump hidden on camera. Bette noticed that most movie scenes were filmed from the waist up, so she always held large objects in front of her stomach. Sometimes she carried a heavy leather handbag, other times she held a thick script or a folded coat. In one famous scene, she even held a sleeping cat. She also asked her co-stars to stand slightly in front of her during close-ups, blocking the camera's view of her middle. When she needed to walk across a room, she wore dark, loose-fitting dresses that completely hid her shape. The studio executives never suspected a thing. Bet finished her filming schedule, welcomed her baby girl, and returned to the set in just 2 weeks. She later compared hiding her pregnancy to working as a secret agent. Every angle, every prop, and every movement had to be carefully planned. Her clever tricks showed that a smart actress could outsmart the strict studio system and keep her family life private. Ginger Rogers. Ginger Rogers was a legendary dancer who starred in 10 beloved musicals with Fred Astaire. Dancing while pregnant is incredibly difficult. Your center of balance shifts, your feet swell, and your energy drops quickly. Yet Ginger had to hide her growing baby while performing complex dance routines. Her costume designers created special dresses made from thick, stiff fabrics that never clung to her body. Instead of smooth silk that showed every curve, she wore structured gowns that looked elegant but kept her middle completely hidden. Ginger also used clever choreography tricks. She added fast, wide spins to her routines, so her full skirt would flare out like a parachute, completely covering her bump. When dancing with Fred Astaire, they stayed very close together, with his arm securely wrapped around her waist to hide her shape from the audience. Ginger carefully removed any dance moves that required bending forward or lying on the floor. She also wore specially reinforced shoes to support her changing weight. Behind the scenes, her feet ached terribly, and her legs grew tired quickly, but she never complained on set. She smiled, kept perfect rhythm, and delivered flawless performances. When the movie premiered, audiences had no idea she was expecting a child. Ginger proved that with careful planning and true talent, a mother could still shine on screen. Rita Hayworth. Rita Hayworth was called the Love Goddess for her stunning red hair and graceful screen presence. When she learned she was pregnant in the 1940s, she was deeply worried. Her studio boss at Columbia Pictures was known for being extremely strict and demanding. He believed actresses should look perfect at all times and never interrupt filming for personal reasons. To hide her growing belly, Rita used a painful wrapping method. She wrapped thick cotton bands tightly around her middle, then added a stiff rubber girdle and a heavy corset on top. All of this pressed firmly against her baby bump, making it very hard to breathe and eat. Bending down was nearly impossible, and she often felt dizzy from the tight pressure. Between camera takes, she would rush to her dressing room, quickly loosen the layers, and take deep breaths. Then she would tighten everything again and return to the set. This difficult routine lasted for months. Rita later said it felt like wearing a heavy weight all day. The hardest part was keeping her emotions hidden. At studio parties, she had to smile and pretend to drink champagne while secretly sipping juice. When her daughter was finally born, Rita held her close and promised never to hide a pregnancy again. Her story shows how much physical pain actresses endured just to keep their jobs. Judy Garland. Judy Garland was the beloved star of The Wizard of Oz, famous for her crystal-clear singing voice. When she became pregnant in the 1940s, her studio, MGM, treated the news as a serious problem. Studio bosses worried that fans would not accept their cheerful star as a mother, so they demanded she hide her pregnancy completely. Instead of using normal hiding tricks, the costume department designed oversized, shapeless dresses with extra padding on the sides. The idea was simple. If her figure changed, audiences would think she was simply gaining weight, not expecting a baby. Judy hated these heavy, hot costumes. She sweated constantly under the bright studio lights, and the thick fabric made her feel clumsy and uncomfortable. Crew members sometimes made unkind jokes about her changing shape, which hurt her feelings deeply. Between scenes, she would quietly step away to rest her tired feet and sore back. She wanted to focus on her growing baby, but the studio pushed her to keep filming. After her daughter was born, MGM gave her only a few days to recover before calling her back to work. She returned to the soundstage still recovering and exhausted, but she smiled, hit her marks, and sang her songs. Judy's experience showed how studios cared more about image than the health of their stars. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe is remembered as one of Hollywood's most iconic stars, famous for her glowing smile and gentle singing voice. Behind the bright lights, however, Marilyn faced deep personal sorrow. In the late 1950s, she became pregnant and was overjoyed to finally expect a child. Sadly, she suffered a miscarriage, which means the baby could not survive. This was a heartbreaking loss that left Marilyn deeply sad. Yet her movie studio was filming a major comedy called Some Like It Hot, and Marilyn still had to show up and perform. She had to hide not a growing baby, but her heavy grief. Between takes, she would quietly step into her dressing room to cry. Then she would wash her face, fix her makeup, and walk back onto the set with a bright, cheerful smile. She wore loose, flowing dresses that did not show her figure, and she often rested one hand gently on her stomach. Cameras thought it was a cute, relaxed pose, but Marilyn was actually trying to comfort herself through the pain. Her studio never allowed her to take time off to heal. Years later, friends shared that losing that baby left a quiet sadness that stayed with her forever. Marilyn's story reminds us that sometimes the hardest thing to hide is not a secret, but a broken heart. Loretta Young. Loretta Young was a graceful actress known for her gentle roles and strong Catholic faith. In the 1930s, she faced a very difficult situation when she learned she was pregnant out of wedlock. At that time, Hollywood and society were extremely strict about unmarried mothers. If the public discovered her secret, her career could end instantly. Loretta used careful planning to hide her growing baby from movie cameras. For nearly her entire pregnancy, she never stood fully upright in any scene. She knelt on chairs, reclined on velvet sofas, or leaned against tall bookcases. Directors cleverly filmed her from behind large desks or heavy curtains, so her middle was always hidden. When she appeared outdoors, she wore enormous fur coats, even during warm weather, to completely cover her shape. After her baby girl was born, Loretta created a cover story. She publicly claimed she had adopted the infant from a hospital in Europe. She kept this story secret for over 20 years. Her daughter grew up calling her Aunt Loretta to keep up the act. Only when her daughter became an adult did Loretta finally tell the truth. She later admitted that living with the lie was heavy on her heart, but she believed she had to protect her child and her career in a world that gave mothers very few choices. Jean Harlow. Jean Harlow was known as Hollywood's original platinum blonde for her striking silver-white hair and bright, cheerful personality. When she became pregnant at just 22 years old, her studio immediately warned her to keep it hidden. Movie bosses believed that glamorous stars should never distract audiences with real-life family news. Jean used clever props and camera tricks to hide her growing middle. In almost every scene, she positioned herself behind large objects like dining tables, grand pianos, or tall bookshelves. When she had to stand on camera, she held oversized pillows, thick coats, or even a tiny terrier dog directly in front of her waist. The wiggling puppy drew everyone's attention away from her figure. Jean also learned to walk with a slight sideways tilt so her bump faced away from the main camera lens. When tight dresses were required, she wore stiff, uncomfortable undergarments that squeezed her middle flat. The pressure sometimes made her feel dizzy, and she had to take quick breaks to breathe properly. Despite the physical discomfort, Jean kept smiling and delivered her funny, energetic performances. She once joked that hiding a pregnancy felt like carrying a secret suitcase everywhere she went. Though her life was cut short at 26, her clever on-screen tricks are still remembered by film historians today. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was a powerful actress famous for her strong roles and sharp, elegant style. She won an Academy Award and was known for working harder than almost anyone in Hollywood. When she became pregnant twice in the 1940s, she refused to let her growing baby bump interrupt her filming schedule. Joan used the most uncomfortable method available: extremely tight, structured undergarments. She wore heavy rubber girdles reinforced with thin steel springs that squeezed her middle flat. Sometimes she layered 2 or 3 at once, making it very difficult to take a deep breath or eat a full meal. The intense pressure often made her feel nauseous, and she had to step outside between takes to recover. To distract from her hidden middle, Joan's costumes featured wide, padded shoulders and full flared skirts. This created an hourglass shape that made her waist look naturally small. Her skin often showed purple marks from the tight bands, but she never let the crew see her discomfort. Joan arrived on set perfectly dressed, delivered flawless performances, and kept her secret completely hidden. After her children were born, she shared that she loved being a mother deeply, but she hated the painful tricks she had to use to protect her career. Her story shows how much sacrifice Golden Age stars made behind the camera. These actresses were like quiet superheroes. They smiled brightly for the camera while hiding fear, discomfort, and a growing baby inside them. Today, the film industry is very different. Modern stars proudly show their pregnancies on red carpets and take time to rest. They no longer have to lie or wear painful costumes. But back in the Golden Age, these 10 brave women risked their careers, their health, and their peace of mind just to start a family. The next time you watch a classic black and white movie, watch closely. Notice the oversized coats, the cleverly placed purses, or the carefully blocked camera angles. Behind those glamorous smiles hid real courage. Remember their names and thank them for paving the way.